Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queer Stories on the Swan, a podcast where two gay men chat and discuss all things queer in the Perth LGBTQIA+ community. I'm your host, Chris.
And I'm your other host, Christo. And in today's episode, we're talking to River Clarke, their discovery on their non-binary identity and political career.
Sit back and enjoy the show. Christo's back.
Hooray!
You're back.
Here.
Somewhat.
Did you miss me?
A little bit. Well, I did miss you, but you're somewhat in the episode because here's the thing.
Yeah.
So we're actually recording this after
in the future,
after the interview has been recorded with our guest, because I figured that we've had one episode where Christo isn't in it apart from the outro. So I figured better get him in. So
yeah,
Christo's alive. Christo's alive. He's well. He's dyed his hair. Yes, we can actually see it because of the podcast, but it's like a nice little pink and it's shorter, got little lines through it. It looks lovely.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So let's just kind of catch up. Christo, how was because last time in episode 7 you were away because you were in Roto. How was that?
Yes, that was great. Went away for a friend's birthday for one night, and really nice. I've never stayed over there before. So really cool.
I have like years and years ago. It's been so long. But that's really, really good. So did you listen to the, you missed us? You missed us on Queer Stories on this one?
Of course.
Good. Well, we missed you. And it's good to have you back somewhat.
Yeah.
Next episode, it will be...
I'll be fully there.
Fully there for the interview and everything. It'll be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been really good. So a little update on the podcast. So we are now... Oh, you missed quite a bit. I did a little bit of asking around with our listeners. Facebook, if you could not bling in the middle of my recording interview, that would be rude. It's just one of my supportive friends talking about the podcast. But not now. Not while I'm recording. So I actually put a poll out to see where other people would like to listen to us. I know for the longest time I was like, no, I'm not doing more than Spotify or Apple Podcasts because it was such a pain. But I caved in. We are now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and and Anchor as well. So yeah,
all of the things.
I think wherever you get your podcasts, there's no excuse.
We can say that now.
Wherever you get your
podcasts from.
I know. I said that in the trailer, and then I was like, "Oh, we're actually available on 2 spots only."
They're the main ones anyway.
Well, we got quite a bit of reaction when I said that we are available on Amazon and Audible. So.
Oh wow!
Clearly, people have been waiting for that.
Well, now no one's got any excuse.
Oh, you know how I said Apple was the worst one to set up? So I was wrong. It was Google.
Oh,
Google.
Really?
Because Google is weird. Basically, for anyone who wants to start up a podcast,
here we go.
I would recommend getting these platforms set up early. Not in the middle of your season where you're trying to get more people, because what happened is because Apple, I had to make an account and I had to set up a payment plan. Well, not payment plan, not payment method in case I chose to purchase something, which I'm not going to. But with Google, you have to, what do you have to do? You have to set up a whole Google Podcast Manager on there. And you have to, and what happens is that it's not something you just send off from Anchor or wherever you're distributing your podcast from. Google has to manually search it. It has to scour the internet and find your podcasts. So I had to look up YouTube tutorials and Google tutorials. I'm like, this should not be as complicated. It did. I was also doing tape work at the time, so I was a little bit busy. And I was just like, why is this so difficult? Why?
So everyone, you're welcome.
So Google it took forever because I had like a Google thing set up and then it said, your show is not available on Google yet. I'm like, why? Turns out it takes like a few days. For me, it was a week. And I had to find a way to speed up the process. I got it in the end. So we are all available on Google Podcasts. Thank God.
Oh my gosh.
Amazon was nice and easy then. So I know we've got an Alexa in the Oh god, I didn't track her. We have gotten in the back, and I listen to podcasts in the background now. So I'm editing and I'm hearing episodes at the same time. So I'm hearing my voice everywhere. So anyway,
it's all around me.
Yeah, I'm taking my voice now. But I have to listen to it.
Oh.
But yeah, no, it's been all good. We also reached out for some feedback from our listeners. Very, very lovely. Thank you so much. One of which was saying Christo needs to be heard more. I'm not looking at anyone in particular. You're too quiet.
Oh no.
They said, what did they say? As great as Chris is, thank you. You know, we do need to hear more of Christo, because you are also the host, Christo. So
I know.
Now that you're back from Roto, step your pussy up. No.
Oh, wow. Look out, Chris. I'll steal the spotlight then.
Oh, good luck with that.
We'll both be fighting.
But
the guests will be sitting there like, what's going on? We're like, we want to talk.
I don't care that you're here in the title. The episode of the title is named after you. This is our show. No. So really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten. So yes, and of course you all would have noticed that our episodes are going up fortnightly now. That's just simply because workload is a B. Why am I saying myself a bitch?
Because you're a busy person now.
I'm a busy person. It's
I'm
fun,
still a lady of
but
pleasure.
also not.
Yeah.
But no, really, really enjoy it. Okay, I think we've prattled on long enough.
Yeah.
So Christo, I'm going to throw to the interview, which you're not a part of, but that's all right.
Enjoy, everyone.
We'll hear you in the outro, and we'll definitely hear you next episode. Fully back with us, and really appreciate it. All right, let's get to our guest, River.
Hi everyone, this is Chris from episode 7, and you're listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. And as always, remember to stay fabulous.
So we have our guest here, River. And hey, River, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Appreciate you coming on to the show. I know we've been bustling trying to get you organized to record an episode with you, but you're finally here.
Yeah, things just kept sort of not really working out, but
I know.
I did it. I made it.
Oh, exactly. No, that's why we started doing fortnightly episodes, because like life, especially for me, is like gotten really, really busy now. And I'm like, I can't do this thing on the weekly basis anymore. So
yeah,
it works out. So, all right. So we'll just kind of go from the beginning, wherever you want to start. Just talk to us about your childhood. Was there anything that gave you a sense that you weren't normal, whatever that is, you know?
I mean, my absolute determination to not be considered normal as a kid might have been a hint. I legitimately detested the idea. But yeah, my name's River. I use they them pronouns. Yeah, I think the main thing that sort of influenced my sort of journey being queer when I was younger was that I grew up in a small country town. So I grew up in Denmark. It's not tiny. It's got a population of 5,000, but like there's one high school. There's basically one primary school. There's a couple of like alternative hippie ones, but they've got very small classes. So we all knew each other for pretty much the entirety of school, which does things to a person. But I remember, I think probably the earliest hint at not necessarily being trans specifically, but being some sort of gender non-conforming at least was in like year 4 maybe. One of the boys in my class came up to me and said something along the lines of just straight out, "Are you a tomboy?" And I was like, did not know what the word meant and had to ask.
Yeah.
And then when he told me, I was like, yeah, I guess. And he left, and I have no idea if I was teased for that or not, because I had the social awareness of a brick. But
same.
I was like, yeah, I guess that works. And then I just kind of carried that with me all through school and did not consider any more about that at all until I graduated. So it really was like I went through school being sort of like vaguely aware that I was probably not a cisgender heterosexual girl. Like I wasn't particularly interested in guys, but I was mostly sure that that was because the guys in my year weren't very interesting, which was true. But I also wasn't particularly interested in girls, but there was no one in my year that was out.
Yeah.
So it's not like that would have been an option anyway. I think there might have been one that was like sort of out, but again, I had the social awareness of a brick, so I didn't really know that. I don't know how I made it through high school, but I at some point in maybe year 11 or 12, I was like, I should probably think about this at some point. I guess I'll think about it later. And then I graduated and went, oh shit, this is later. And within months of finishing year 12, I came out as bisexual, but I never did the big coming out thing. I don't know, because like my parents are quite progressive. Denmark is good for a small town in the sense that it is like full of hippies. They're
Right.
progressive. They're like not completely caught up on the times there, but they're progressive. So they will be very well intentioned when they screw up all of the language, which is, it could be worse. But I've never done a big coming out thing for anything. I don't, that seems to be something that people do where they do the big Facebook post coming out as gay or trans or whatever they've realized. But I've never done one of those. What I did do was when sometime during the gap year that I spent also in Denmark, I was dating a girl, and instead of coming out to anyone in my extended family, we just said we were dating on Facebook and let them work it out, which seemed to go okay. So, that worked. But yeah, I think it was definitely challenging being in such a small town because I didn't really know any, especially older people that were in the LGBTQI plus community, except for like 2 older lesbians. I think my art teacher was like gay but quiet about it. Like that was about it. Whereas, and then, I mean, when I was in my gap year, I was able, like I had a license then, so I was able to travel to Albany, which has a bit of a bigger population. But it's quite a conservative place. And so they actually have some sort of monthly queer youth group that they get funding and take people bowling, which is a pretty good deal.
And they do have Pride down there. I've seen it.
They do, yeah. Don't know how long they've been doing that for. I feel like it was sort of a shaky idea when I was first going to the queer youth group.
Right.
And I remember one of the people that organized it saying something a little bit sort of, I want to say sardonically, but I don't know if that's the right word, almost sarcastically, being like, we should be a bit careful if we're going to have like a pride parade because like bricks might get thrown or something. And like this is recently, it was definitely hyperbole, but it wasn't completely unfounded fear. But yeah, that's like 2019. I think. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, that was a really valuable, just there is so much value in being able to see other people that are like you. It's just kind of ridiculous. And feel like you're then able to explore more of it because you're not stuck in this sort of very gently putting your feelers out, like, am I allowed to do this? Can I dress this way? Can I cut my hair this way? All these sorts of things. Because if you see other people doing it, just legitimizes it, makes you feel a lot more comfortable. So that was really valuable for me. And there were like a few trans people there, but not many. Mostly younger than me, actually, because they were mostly people from Albany. I think the group was like ages 12 to 25 or something, but they were mostly high school students. So by the time I was going, I was like 19, because I just had to be able to drive myself there to go and didn't really know what it was. It wasn't actually my girlfriend that knew about it, girlfriend at the time, although she came with a few times. But my friend, who's actually the child of one of the older lesbians I knew, found out about it because all the queer people in Denmark, there's very few of them, know each other, know what's going on. And so we'd go over together, which was great.
Great. So drama really wasn't an option, was it? Because if there was some beef, then it would be known pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like social awareness was still pretty shaky then. I was getting better. There was definitely some drama in like the Albany kids that were going to that youth group. A bit of like, I'm not talking to you kind of stuff because it was such a small group of people.
Mm.
But I seem to manage to avoid that. I was the only like person in Denmark going to it that had a driver's license, so I think no one could piss me off as well.
No, exactly.
I was the only way they could get there, which is always handy. The like a one gay person in every friend group with a driver's license is valuable.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, just been riding that high since I got my license. It's good. But yeah, when I came to Perth was when I first sort of, I'd already been thinking about gender stuff, but only kind of, because again, it's that thing of like very gently putting feelers out. Am I allowed to feel this way? Am I allowed to express myself this way?
Yep.
I don't see people around me that reflect that, so I don't know what to do. And then I went to, it was actually called Girls Rock Camp. So my ex was very musical, and she'd previously been to this camp as like a participant, and then she wanted to go as a mentor because she was over 18 the second time. And so I came along and was like, yeah, I'll just do like generic volunteer. I can't music for shit. Like I just can't.
No.
But
No,
I'm not
blood in
musical.
my body. Not at all.
Yeah, I used to play piano, but I think that was more like my maths brain than my music brain.
Yeah.
I'm not musical, but I could run errands and help set up stuff and whatever. So I just went along as a volunteer. Despite being called Girls Rock Camp, they were very inclusive, which was good. So yeah, they were like, I think they just had originally been called Girls Rock Camp. This is something that exists in other states or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're inclusive of basically everyone that doesn't identify as a cis man, because they're trying to diversify the rock industry. Is the gist of it. And yeah, so I went along to that, and because the only person I knew there the only person there that I knew was my ex. I didn't know anyone else there. And so I was like, fuck it, I will just try a new name, because I'd been sort of thinking about gender stuff, and my dead name was making me increasingly uncomfortable. And I was like, can't hurt, let's give it a shot. And so that's where I tried the name River for the first time. And it was just for a week on this camp, which was actually at the your TAFE.
Like, okay.
Where Boom Radio is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was in there. So it was a little bit weird to go back there that time when you were interviewing me. But
2 times.
Yes. Yeah. I think I've only actually been in person once. I think I've called in the other time. Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
We'll have to do that again sometime.
Yeah, it's good. I love being on radio. It's great. Yeah, so that was a really great experience, because I was like, holy shit, I can just change my name. Like, that's just a thing that I can do.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of 2020, which is always a great start to a story. At the start of 2020.
Oh, 2020.
I had so much hope for the world.
You silly. Yeah. You're so silly.
Yeah. But great. Anyway, moved to Perth at the start of 2020. And like a month after that or something, 3 weeks after that, I don't know. To start uni, and then moved back 3 weeks later, but because everything happened. But before everything happened, I'd started uni, and I hadn't legally changed my name or anything, because it had been like 2 months since I started using this name, but changed my documents and stuff at Curtin for preferred name. And so I was just using that in class, and it was pretty great to just be able to do that, which is such an incredible thing. That is like a fairly recent change, I think, this acceptance of using people using a preferred name instead of their legal name. God, it makes such a difference for trans people.
Yeah, I imagine. And the pronoun thing too. Like the pronouns is becoming way more common now, and as much as there is debate about it, a lot more people are open to it. I'm sure that must feel very validating.
Yeah. Because I've now studied and worked at Curtin. I'm not working there at the moment. But I studied and worked, and so I'm on all their records as like MX is my title. Right. I don't know how you pronounce that. I just care that it's not Ms. That's the only thing I care about.
Such an ugly pronunciation as well. Ms.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than Miss, which is like, I don't want my marital status to be tied to my title. That's disgusting. Anyway, I had opinions about that as a kid. But so on everything as MX, and pretty much all my experience has either been super positive or just like where people aren't sure, and it's just a learning curve, but like people trying, which is really the best you could ask for.
Like,
Right.
I don't mind if someone's trying as long as they're legitimately trying. That's, yeah. So yeah, that was pretty good. Except for the pandemic that kind of threw a wrench in the works. And I had to actually go back to Denmark because I was staying in student accommodation, and I was like, we don't know what's going on. These are really close living conditions with people I don't know, and I have no control over how much they obey restrictions and whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So I moved back down, and then there was a regional lockdown. And 2 months later, I moved back the day the regional lockdown lifted.
Yeah.
I was like, I got a taste of independence, and I want it back.
Don't like, yeah.
Yeah, don't want to go back to living with my parents. They're great. Don't want to do that.
But once you have that taste, like, you just want to continue that.
Yeah, it was even like the little things. Like, I got really annoyed when I moved back because Mum kept doing my washing for me, like my clothes washing. And I was like, I appreciate this, but it's really doing my head in because I feel like I have no control over what's happening in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me have this.
But yeah, was able to move back, so that was good. Despite the exorbitant fees that student accommodation charges. If you can rent anywhere else, rent anywhere else. It's good because you can just like fill in a form and get a spot, which is a lot easier than most rentals.
Yeah.
That's about the only point in favor. So that was sort of the name journey, I guess. The pronouns journey started slightly after the name journey.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I remember at one point I was like, I don't want to inconvenience people. Like, if I ever wanted to change my pronouns, and I don't know why I thought I was a cis kid legitimately thinking about this. Like, cis kids don't anyway. Should have been a hint, but I was like, if I ever wanted to change my pronouns, I would just switch straight from like she to he. I wouldn't muck around with they and them. And anyway, that was a dumb thought that was entirely wrong. But the thing that really sort of made me realize I could do that was when I moved to Perth. Because I've been a member of the Greens Party since like, and I promise this is relevant, since like 2018 or something. My dad actually volunteers for the Greens, and the former MLC for the Southwest, the former elected Greens member for the Southwest, was like a family friend. So I've sort of been involved for a little while. So when I moved up, I was like, yeah, I'll go to some Greens things. It's a good way to meet people.
Sure.
Shock horror, the like Greens people in Perth way younger on average than the Greens people that live in Albany. Don't know why that could possibly be. It's almost like this place where all these people retire is way older than me. So suddenly Greens people were way more relatable than they had been.
Wow.
No offense to the Southwest Greens. I love them to bits, but they're all retired.
Yeah.
Which is tough when you're like 19 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Greens folks in Perth are much younger on average. So I went to a couple Greens things, and at the first Greens thing I went to, someone asked me my pronouns because I had shown up as this kid. I was not much younger than I am now, using the name River, clearly new to using the name River, with like a buzzed head because I just cut my hair like just before I moved to like a number 2 or something, like completely shaved it. And I like sort of started out and answered the first time. And then that same person asked me again the next event I went to, because they were like, like your dad was there, you didn't seem sure. I just want to check your pronouns, kid. And I was like, I don't know. And it was just, and then I went and had like a sort of panic cry about it, because I was like, holy shit, could I just like change my answer? Like I could just do that. And apparently the answer is yes, I can just do that. So that was incredible, basically, to suddenly be in an environment of people that are supportive of gender shenanigans. So yeah, that was really great. And then, yeah, switched to they, them probably within the first sort of month of being in Perth, and have not looked back.
And that's when you decided to start identifying as non-binary, or?
Yeah, I'd sort of been on like might use the word genderqueer, might use like trying to find something a bit softer, because I didn't feel like that dumb thing that a lot of people get where they're like, I don't know if I feel like non-binary enough or trans enough to use this label, which is dumb as hell for anyone listening. If you want to use the label, you can use the label. That is the entire requirement. Yeah. But at the time, like sort of imposter syndrome and whatever. Yeah. So I sort of started using the non-binary label around then. Yeah. I think it was a bit longer before I felt comfortable using trans. It took a lot of seeing, like, I have to admit, like on Tumblr and stuff, people talking about it, and just quite a lot of people being like, we're not going to be exclusionary about this. If you want to use the label, you can use the label.
Yeah.
And trans is obviously inclusive of anyone that wants to be included in there that doesn't identify as like the gender they are assigned at birth. And even that has a little bit of wiggle room, because if you're intersex, it gets like even the gray areas get even grayer,
Right.
just because our labels are so binary and kind of stupid. So it's a label for anyone that wants it.
Yeah.
The sort of analogy, I guess, of labels being like umbrellas that we can all sit under together is quite sweet in that sense, because it's just whoever wants to be there.
Community. We love that.
Yeah, exactly. We can't go around saying stuff about like our community wants this and whatever if we're not going to honor the community part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
I do like how you added that in, because sometimes it does feel like the community part is kind of left out, or it's not specified enough.
Yeah, and the community part is crucial. Like, as I found, like, just being around people that were also non-binary, that were also trans, that were also queer, is so incredibly valuable. Yeah, legitimately, like, life-changing almost, just to feel that validation and be able to see myself in other people, and also see it in people that are older than me, not in the sense of like the older lesbians I knew that were like my parents' age, but like people that are maybe 10 years older than me. And it's like, oh, I can now see how I can identify and express myself the way I do and exist in the workforce, or like exist as a parent, or whatever it might be, because otherwise there's just this massive gap of like, I don't quite know where I'm meant to go now, because I think especially because being non-binary it's not remotely a new thing, but in the public narrative, it is a massively new thing. So there's precedent for it going back probably thousands of years. Don't cite me on that. And if there's not precedent, I'm sure it's just because it hasn't been recorded. Like, it's such a consistent thing across cultures to have some sort of non-man or woman gender or identity or whatever. But it's only recently something that is talked about and accepted as just existing. And that means that it's kind of like the equivalent of bashing your way through a jungle with a machete instead of just walking along a path. Like, sometimes you have to do so much groundwork just to like educate the people around you, even if they have all come to the table with the best intentions. If you need to explain to them what every word means and how to use pronouns, it's exhausting. So yeah, and that's a lot worse in places like rurally, like regionally in the country, because there's even less of the groundwork that's there. And the internet helps, but it can only help so much when all of the in-person spaces are just a bit behind the times. Yeah. So just being around people, and it's I think part of the reason that queer folks are so drawn to queer spaces is that you don't constantly feel like you're having to educate everyone around you on your own issues. That's just my experience anyway. Also partly just going to be the fact of having shared experience with people is just a thing that brings, human connection.
Exactly. It's one of like the most ancient forms of just connecting with people, just shared experiences. Yeah, I mean, I was saying that in previous episodes, going to places like, even when I first went to the Court and Connections for the first time, when I was exploring, when I convinced myself that I was bi at the time, I hadn't fully come out as gay. The fact that I didn't have people like asking me stupid questions or like, as I started dating, like who's the man relationship, who's the woman? I'm like, no, go away with that.
Just no.
Let me just have fun and allow me to be honest and authentic, and just connect with people. You know? No, I 100% agree with what you mean there. If you're liking the show so far, feel free to follow us on our socials at Queer Stories on the Swan at our Facebook and Instagram. Also, give us a review on whatever platform you get your podcasts, as we really appreciate the feedback. So you're agreeing to stand at Canada. Are we
I
okay?
am, yes.
We okay to mention it? Cool.
Yes.
So what's been the process of becoming that? Has your connection with the queer community helped with that, would you say? Or
I guess in the sense that like not so much helped me get the role, but helped me want to get the role.
Mhm.
Yeah, so at the last state election, I was the candidate for Cannington.
Yep.
So like a lower house seat. The difference is it's a lower house seat, it's a smaller area. There's not a lot of Greens momentum there. It's a very safe Labor seat because the member there is a minister, so
Mhm.
that doesn't really help. But it was still the same deal of being a candidate and being fairly public facing, and because I was we had a few non-binary candidates. I think I was the only one that used the label trans, but it meant that, and I was a bit more active as well. And so it meant that I was sort of put forward for like sort of pride events and stuff as like, this is the trans candidate, woohoo, which I was fully on board with, because just the fact that we have a trans candidate is such like a
big thing,
new precedent in WA and Australia, and it's just not really something that's happened much, which is obviously an issue for a number of reasons. But also not surprising given
we're basically the country town of the other major cities in Australia.
Yeah.
So that's something to in itself.
Yeah, it's the classic thing of like every trans person in Perth is like either knows each other or has like a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Just about everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like the queer community
Because
in general.
It's just that small.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, I was the Cannington candidate. And that was like I've been politically active for a while. So it's not just me wanting to be an advocate on queer issues, but that is definitely a large part of it. So it is partly just I want to do my thing for stuff like climate crisis and stuff like social justice issues and welfare and whatever, because I've been doing that for so long. But coming out as trans and being part of the community, and especially I think my connections to the younger parts of the community, and again, they're like 2 or 3 years younger than me, but I'll just keep talking as if I'm old. The connections to younger parts of the community through, say, the Curtin Queer Department, where I'm like, I will protect these people with my life because they're like 17, 18 years old, just coming to terms with this stuff. And it's like, if I can do something to advocate for these people, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And lo and behold, I can do something. And that's like within my skill set and within my means. And that's being a candidate. And I also just want to represent the Greens Party because I think we're fabulous, but that's sort of besides the point. But yeah, so now I'm the Senate candidate, Senate number 2, so supporting our current senator who's getting re-elected, Dorinda Cox, who is a fantastic ally. But yeah, so that's kind of a different kettle of fish because the Senate is all of WA, which means that I'm kind of more able to be the candidate for queer people, like still covering all the issues and also for young people because I am only 20 years old, which in politics is like a baby.
Just a baby.
The age of like, not within the Greens quite young, but the age of like MPs is so old, it's ridiculous. And it's like, how are we supposed to be represented here when you all think that a house still costs 300 grand? Like, what are you doing?
And it's much easier if you can't rent, just buy a house. Like,
oh yeah, that totally
do
works.
That.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I don't know. It's so easy to make fun of him as well. Anyway,
he must know. Anyway, that's beside the point.
He must know. Yeah. But yeah, a large part of it is just wanting to have a way of advocating for the community, and being a candidate is a great platform because you tell people you're a candidate and they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll put you on this like radio station. It just means people listen to you. It's great.
You're welcome. But yeah,
and it also means that I think the part that I love the most is being able to take other people's stories and other people's experiences and then like amplifying them because I have this platform that I can use.
Yes.
And it's not a big platform. Like I'm the Green Senate number 2 candidate. I am very new on the political scene.
Yeah.
If that's even like a scene I want to be on instead of something that I'm just kind of using on my way through.
But just by looking at your socials, you've clearly made an impact. People have clearly like been drawn to you. Like yes, I follow you on your socials, but mainly to be supportive. But I have been noticing like you definitely have that impact already, and I think it's just going to grow from here. So
it's a little bit surreal, I'll be honest, because I'm not the kind of person that regularly posts on social media on my personal pages. I just don't. It's like how I didn't do the big Facebook coming out. It just doesn't occur to me to do that. I'm not interested in doing that. And so having the candidate pages, and because my physical health has been a bit hit and miss lately, the candidate pages is like the bulk of what I can do. So I've been doing that quite a lot. And yeah, it's a little bit surreal just when like people reply to my posts and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I did a post, the post recently that really took off on Instagram was the Greens $88 a day, like bring Centrelink above the bloody poverty line. You like fucks. Because we shouldn't have people living in poverty in a wealthy country. And that one really took off, which was good to see because it's so crucial. But I definitely on my pages focus on talking about queer issues because that is the reason that most people are following me. And that seems to do quite well. But yeah, and it's also besides the social media stuff, I get to use that platform for other cool things. A shameless plug for Trans Day of Visibility. I'm going to be speaking at a protest this Saturday, which is the 2nd of April, I believe, which I think will be in the past by the time this is released. But
still good.
That's fine. Presumably the protest goes ahead and it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm really excited to be doing that. I spoke at a protest against the religious discrimination bill.
Saw that.
Which was also really good because that was disgusting from start to finish. So it's nice for once to have a protest that is not just like in response to an awful thing that's happening, or instead sort of promoting and raising the visibility of Trans Day of Visibility.
You're raising awareness.
Raising up awareness. Yeah, that's the one. Which is a more positive thing, which is nice to do. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we don't get rained on. I think we'll be all right.
The weather is so weird this week, so
yeah, it'll probably do that horrible thing where it's like humid and thinks it's going to rain and then it doesn't and just stays humid for the whole day, because that has happened like 3 times in the past week and I am not about it.
No, same. My sleep pattern has been screwed because of that. So thanks, Mother Nature.
It's not fun. Woohoo, Perth.
That being said, save the Earth, Greens. Hello.
Yes, well, climate change is not helping. So,
No.
Mother Nature is trying. We've just really fucked it up. Yeah, that's okay. But yeah, I do like doing obviously I hate that it's the sort of thing we have to do, but I do like doing the protests and the public speaking generally, despite hating being the center of attention, which is ironic when I'm a political candidate.
You're doing it for a cause, though. It's not just you.
Yeah, I think in my mind, the cause is the center of attention, not me. Yeah. I don't know what other people think. I'm just going to keep thinking that so I don't get too nervous and everything will be fine. Yeah. But yeah, I think the advocacy stuff has definitely sort of shaped my transition journey in the last year or so, year and a half. But yeah, for the last year and a half, it's been such a big thing because it means that it is a little bit exhausting, not in the sense of actually doing the work, but the sort of emotional exhaustion. And this is something that I see in some of the other sort of activists in the queer community, where it can be difficult to sort of turn off from doing the activist thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm okay at it. I think I'm trying to make sure that other people are doing the taking time off. But yeah,
because like you were saying, you get so involved in it, and then even when I sign online petitions, I'll get bloody emails, or I remember some reason I was getting letters in my mailbox from the Council of National Interest, which is very conservative newsletter. I don't know how that happened, but because I think it was for it was either the Yes Vote or Pride and something weird was happening. And it's I find it difficult to just get away from it. There's times I'm like, no, there's too much. So I can imagine being an activist and being on the front lines, so to speak, must be so.
And it's also the balance between
sort of doing what you're there to do versus just like an unhealthy amount of obsessing with it. Like I am usually pretty good, but I will admit when the religious discrimination bill was being discussed, I stayed up and watched the House of Representatives vote, which ran until like 3 a.m. their time or something. Fortunately, because of time zones, was like midnight here, so that's a little bit more reasonable.
Right. Yeah.
But
God,
it was
you must
just
have
a
so
sort
much
of
endurance
slightly
to watch
horrible
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Slightly horrible thing where we started watching it and then just couldn't stop.
Yeah.
But at the very least, it meant I could dunk on people online because I definitely knew what had happened because I'd watched the whole cab thing.
Yeah.
Only for it to get like blocked in the Senate in like a 2-minute discussion the next day, which was incredibly weird. That whole thing was a clusterfuck. But it's kind of behind us now. Hopefully it stays behind us now.
Honestly, I think it was just a bit of a panic move by
It was very much so like a last ditch attempt before the election. I'm not sure if it was last ditch because like last minute ran out of time, or if it was deliberate last ditch because that gave less time for it to be properly discussed.
Who knows?
So I don't know if it was a tactic or a screw up, but it didn't work for them either way because as soon as protections for trans kids got in there, the Conservatives didn't want it anymore.
Yeah, funny
I don't know how that happens.
I personally think the Morrison government knows that he's extremely unpopular with his hometown, the rural communities, the country in general for fucking up to Hawaii. He's like, let's try and really pander to conservatives and let's hate on the gays or the queer people. So let's
again, because apparently that's in fashion, but with a different flavor. Which is fun. So yeah, trying to make sure I'm not like obsessing over that all the time.
Yeah, of course, which I did not help with, so I'll stop talking now.
No, I could talk about politics for way too long. That's definitely
well, you'd heard that's your position, but yeah.
Yes, that is kind of my job. I say it's my job. I am not remotely getting paid for it. Candidates don't get paid, but that is my role.
Which makes it more noble. Because clearly you believe in the cause.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly like working hours. It's very variable.
No, wonderful. So River, where can we follow your socials? Is that all right? Or
so you can follow my candidate socials. I don't really have like personal ones. So they'll only last until the election in May. But in the meantime, you can definitely follow my candidate socials.
Perfect.
So I've got Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, I'm River Clarke, Greens candidate for the Senate or something to that effect. And on Instagram, it's just River for WA.
Perfect. Now, so do you have any advice for people that grew up, in the country, dealing with like either being trans and then later on non-binary, just trying to figure yourself out? Like, do you have any advice regarding that?
I think don't be afraid of reaching out to a community. One of the hard things with that, I know, for people that are questioning can be not feeling, like I was saying before, not feeling like you're trans enough or not feeling like you're non-binary enough. Not even to use the label, but to be part of a queer community. That's bullshit. Do it anyway. There is a reason that like 99% of LGBTQI plus spaces will be explicitly inclusive of allies and of questioning people, and that's so that if you're still working things out or if you're in the closet, you can still like come in the doors. If you're in the country or when there's a pandemic on, it's obviously a bit harder, but there are spaces online. I haven't been myself, but I've heard Freedom Center's pretty good, and I know they do Discord online sessions, that sort of thing. See what Trans Folk of WA recommend. Just don't be afraid of inviting yourself to sort of social spaces, that sort of thing, because just being around other people that are kind of like you it's so good.
No, that's wonderful. Perfect. All right, so we'll let you go. Really appreciate your time, River. Thank you so much for joining us on the episode. And good luck with I know this is coming out in a couple weeks from when we're recording it, so the awareness we're going to bringing awareness to the protest. Sorry, the protest. I hope it goes well for you. Thank you. And good luck with all your endeavors, and of course, best in luck with your political career. And just stay fabulous. I never have a solid way to wrap these up. I probably should. All right, so we'll let you go, and we'll outro out the show. So thank you so much, River, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. You can leave a review for us wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christo.
And stay fabulous. All right. Oh, damn it. Where's the script? I thought we... Oh, God. I'm all over the place.
One day we'll probably know it off by heart, but until then...